Now let's see what are the different type of networks we have. In general, we have the centralized network, decentralized network and the distributed network. So let's see what is a centralized network. A centralized network is a type of network in which all the data is present in a single location and all the entities in the network are dependent upon the central server for their communications. And hence we can see all the decision making process is done by a single entity. One of the example of the centralized system is our Aadhaar system, in which all our Aadhaar information is being stored on a single server, and mostly all the systems that we have in place right now is based upon a centralized network. So what are the benefits of a centralized network? Since we can see all the data is present in a single location, so the data is easier to maintain, it is very cost effective to access the data. And since our data is present in a single location, it is very vulnerable to attack. So if some attackers attack the data, then it will be a loss for everyone. And on the other hand, we can see since all the data is present on a single location, if we have more number of requests at a single point of a time, then the access of the data becomes slow. And also the centralized servers are not much scalable when it comes to the scalability, and it is very prone to attack. So since all the data is present on a single server, and if that data gets corrupted, then it is not easy to recover the data. So these are some of the challenges that we face in a centralized server. Now let's talk about the decentralized network. In decentralized network, data is not stored at a single location, it is stored at multiple servers. In a simple way, in order to understand this, let's just assume like all the data of Indian people is stored in one server and all the data of US people is stored in another server. So now we have different data presented on the different servers, and different servers is maintained by different authorities. For example, we can see the example of torrent. In torrent, there is no centralized database. People interact with each other on a peer-to-peer communication, and all the data is being allocated on a decentralized servers. Now let's talk about the distributed network. In distributed network, all the data is being stored with the multiple entities. All the nodes in the network have the same type of data, and all the nodes of the network have authorized the data. So this is a type of a protocol that is being used by the blockchain. So blockchain at the same point of time use the concept of decentralization and distributed network, in which every node on the network have the same type of data, and every node on the network has the right to validate the data. Now if we see today, we can see most of the applications that we have are using centralized servers. For example, our Aadhaar information, our KYC's informations, any information that is stored right now in the servers, the transaction informations, all the data is being stored in the centralized servers. Since we know the drawbacks of having centralized servers, then we must be aware of the fact that if that data gets been attacked by an attacker, then everyone is going to be on a loss. Also on top of that, there is a limited visibility. So if somehow somewhere someone have to access that data, then he has to go through that authority in order to access that data. And on top of that, how can we be so assured that no one is tampering our data? It can be an internal attack, it can be an external attack, but at the end of the day, we cannot be assured that no one is tampering the data. Also, since there is a redundant backup is being taken every hour, every year, every day, based upon the characteristics of the application. So we come up with a solution in which everyone is storing the data on a single server, and still that data is being prone to the attacks, and at the same point of time a lot of redundancy is happening, and still there is a mechanism which we should follow in order to maintain the trust on that data. Now let's talk about torrent. So torrent is a decentralized server in which if you have used the torrent, you can download the files from it. So how does that actually happens? That happens if you say I don't want to download this file. Then what has actually happened, the request goes to some server, and then if that server has that file, then that server starts sharing the file with you. But once that server has shared the file with you, now we have two copies of that file. So let's say if A has sent the file to B on the torrent network, now A also has that file and B also has that file. So we have a duplication of the data here. But when it comes to the blockchain network, especially when it comes to the Bitcoin network, this thing is known as a double spending attack. We will be discussing these things in a further session. Now let's compare what are the traditional systems that we have in place and how blockchain can replace that, and what are the solutions that blockchain can provide us. If we can see, currently we are using the centralized servers, but blockchain provides us a peer-to-peer communication. What that means? That means everyone has the same type of data and everyone can validate the data and everyone can interact with each other without the need of other persons. Now the second thing is, in the traditional system we have a lot of backups of the data. Every day or every hour, depending upon the situations, we are taking the backups. The availability is not that much. When it comes to blockchain network, since it is a distributed ledger, everyone has the data, so it's publicly available to everyone. So now let's talk about the visibility of the data. So when it comes to the centralized servers, only the permission and entities can go on the server and check the data. But when it comes to the blockchain network, I'm especially talking about the public blockchains. So on the public blockchain, everyone can go and see the data. One of the most important things that blockchain provides us is immutability. So a blockchain record is immutable. That means if a data is written in the blockchain, it cannot be altered. But that is not the case with the centralized servers. In centralized servers, any malicious attacks, maybe internal or external, can go in the backend, can go in the servers, can go in the database and change the data. And also currently in the centralized system, we can see the type of security that we have is basically the firewalls, all the security measures that is taken by that system itself. But when it comes to blockchain, the security is being maintained by the consensus algorithms and by the cryptography functions.